Hello, everybody. Welcome in, welcome in. It's very, very nice to see you all, or to see all of your videos, or to see all of your lovely names appear in the chat. Thank you all for being here. While I stall just a minute while we start getting some more people in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All righty. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Book Passage Live Events. Very, very happy to see you here. My name is Nick Mitchell, and I am your host today, and also your technical producer for Book Passage Live Events. We here at the bookstore, and some of us now at home, are very, very excited to be able to bring you some of the best authors and conversations that you can find out there on the internet. We are forever grateful for the support that you've shown us this last year, and particularly in the past few months with us live streaming and getting them directly through Book Passage. We are so, so grateful to you. As we are streaming on YouTube, please consider subscribing. If you look just below the box, or just below this video that you're watching, there is a big red button that says subscribe. If you click that, it doesn't cost you anything, and it honestly really, really does help us out, get this video to everybody, to make sure that YouTube pays a tiny bit more attention to us. Very, very pleasant. Also, if you click the little bell right next to the subscribe button and select all from the drop-down menu, you'll be alerted every time this channel goes live or even posts a pre-recorded author interview. So click it and you won't miss a thing. If you want to check out Off, The Day the Internet Died, or any of the other books mentioned here tonight, you can find them all at bookpassage.com. If you look at the chat just to the right of the screen, or perhaps below, depending on what version you're watching on, I will post the link there in just a minute. Finally, if you have any questions for tonight's speakers, please just write them in the YouTube chat, and I'll do my best to relay them to everybody. We don't always get to all of them, but the questions are always, always appreciated. Now, on to tonight's guests and the creators of the book Off, The Day the Internet Died. Chris Colin has had his writing appear in New York Times Magazine, Pop-Up Magazine, Saveur, Outside, Wired, Smithsonian, and The Best American Science and Nature Writing. He is the author of What to Talk About, What Really Happened to the Class of '93, and Blindsight. Also, he co-wrote This Is Camino, which was nominated for a James Beard Award. Next up is Rinee Shah, whose work spans, whose work spans multiple mediums, from music videos to mobile apps. Her clients include Apple, the New York Times, Facebook, Fendi, O Magazine, Fitbit, and Simon & Schuster. She is the author and illustrator of the Made Up Words Project, a visual dictionary of, as you might expect, made up words. Our moderator tonight, in conversation, we have the inimitable Rebecca Skloot, author of the #1 New York Times bestseller and excellent HBO movie, might I add, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. We are so, so lucky to have such an excellent panel tonight. So without further ado, please allow me to give the show over to our speakers. Welcome, 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 everybody.
Thanks, Nick. Hi. Thanks, Book Passage.
Thank you. Thanks, Book Passage. Thanks, Chris and Rinee. I'm excited to talk to you. I'm excited to see your faces on the internet, even though we're going to talk about why the internet sucks.
Make a special carve out for tonight, but then we're all going to cancel the internet immediately.
Right, we're going to cancel the internet after this. So we're going to just like have a free-ranging conversation about the internet and this book that you guys did, and I don't know, like art and like wherever else we end up going. And I just want to start off with the book for the people who have not seen it, read it. Oh my God, you guys, I love this so much. I read it outside in my backyard. It took me 15 minutes, which I really appreciated. But then I read it again, and then I sat there and I looked at all the pictures, and it's amazing. I mean, it really does feel like a fairy tale, which I think says something about like where we all are in the world. I really felt this longing like I haven't felt in a really long time when I read something. And you know, it's got these beautiful, amazing illustrations. I got very sucked into a bunch of them. I really want to know at some point tonight what is going on with the hanger on this dog's head. But it's just like it does feel like this other world. And I don't know. I guess I just want to first just say that to you guys and say like, thank you. You know, like weirdly, this actually transported me, at least for a few minutes, or several hours in the end, because I kept looking at it, but to a place where the internet didn't exist, because I wasn't looking at my phone and I wasn't on my computer. And I was thinking about what it was like when the internet wasn't there. So I want to say thank you for that. And I'm going to say, like, for everybody watching, you really should get it, read it. It's so good. And it's beautiful. And so first I just want to ask, like, where did this start? How did this happen? How did the two of you end up doing this together? Like, just give me the origin story.
Sure. Thanks, Rebecca. Nice of you. Appreciate it.
All true too.
And
just say that because I like you.
Rinee had never been on the internet before. She's still only been to 2 websites, so this has been really challenging working with her. Quick study. I, on the other hand, had spent way too much time on the internet. I'm a journalist in my other life, and I had spent the year before doing this book doing a lot of sort of serious stuff, and I vowed after that to take a break and do something that was funny and fun. But it came from a serious place. And Rebecca, I've told you this. My hope for this book is that it's a funny book that makes people laugh, but that it's also a Trojan horse for slightly less funny conversations that I personally think we all need to be having a little more. A little soapbox moment. But yeah, I was starting to notice things about myself I wasn't wild about. I think there was one moment that I think of sometimes. I was out at Tilden Park in Berkeley. And I'm sure a lot of people have on this video have been there. It's a beautiful place. And, it was lush and a lovely sunny day. And after about 20 minutes, I felt like this little, like an urge to reach into my pocket. I was bored. I was bored by this beautiful place. And I was like, I got a problem here. But of course, I think we all have various things that trouble us about our relationship with the internet, where it distracts us, of course, we all know that. And I think it warps our relationships, our personal relationships. It does a number on those. It's great for them. We can be in touch with, our old high school friends, but it's weird the way it affects our relationships. And then I think it obviously warps our relationship with strangers and the way discourse happens, the way a conversation about some political issue happens. Obviously, our country almost fell apart in the last year. There's a million reasons why I love the internet. I'm grateful for the internet, and I'm super freaked out about what it's doing to us as a species. So that was sort of what brought me to this. Rinee, I don't know. What do you think?
I was just gonna say, yeah. Did you have the same? Yeah.
Yeah. I finally got on the internet. I finally discovered it, and I got an email from my lit agent who said that Chris was looking for an illustrator to possibly do some sample illustrations for his manuscript, and they sent the manuscript over, and it just really resonated right away. And it was just such a funny, weird way to articulate what I think all of us have been feeling for a really long time. And so that's how I got pulled into it. But yeah, it's been a really fun journey thinking about just, my own relationship to the internet, which I don't think like we're trying to say that people should stop using it, but I think just like this reevaluation of how it fits into our lives.
Yeah. Rinee, I like when you call it a manuscript. That makes it sound so impressive.
I was gonna say, how thick was that manuscript? Like 3 pages?
It was originally 300 pages, but we winnowed it down.
It made me feel really special when I was being sent a manuscript. So yeah.
No, I agree, Rinee. There are a lot of great books out there talking about why we should fully break up with the internet. This is not that.
No.
Rinee and I are totally addicted and often happily so. But I guess I feel like I want for myself personally a reminder to look at the internet as a thing that's not an inevitability, like a thing that's apart from us and a choice that we make.
Well, a choice, right? Yeah, exactly. It's not just a reflex, it's a choice.
Yes, exactly.
It's become a reflex. Yeah, right. It's funny, I have so many different things that I want to say at the same time based on what you guys said. Well, this is the problem with the internet. My brain can't do that anymore.
Right.
Like, so I guess we'll start with our brains. So, one of the things I was thinking about when I was thinking about us talking about this, I want to know, can you tell me your phone number when you were 10?
Yes.
Can you, Rini?
Yeah, and I could tell you my best friend's phone number too. But if you ask me anyone's
That's my next question. Do you know anyone's phone number that number has changed since the internet was invented?
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know
what your area code is.
You know what?
I don't even know your area code.
Right. Exactly. Right. Who knows? I've lived in so many places. Like, I could be calling from any number of those states, depending on where I got my first phone. Right. I mean, I was thinking of this today. It's like I actually had a horrifying moment recently where I realized the only number that I know by heart, aside from ones that like houses where I lived when I was like, under 12, which are not terribly helpful anymore, is my ex. Like, that's the only number I know by heart. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know my parents' phone numbers because I don't know like, if there's an emergency, I have to call my ex. Like, no. I have to get flashcards. I have to start memorizing numbers, but I don't know if my brain does that anymore because, our brains don't work that way anymore. And so I was just, I've been thinking a lot about that, in life, because obviously that's something that's just really, there's been so much science that shows that when we read on screens and we read on the internet and the inundation with information, we don't retain it in the same way. That's just sort of basic memory stuff. Like, we don't keep in all the information we get. And what's funny is I feel like probably, Chris, we've talked about it, but I don't remember us ever talking about it. And so I guess I just wanted to say that because I think, and it's like same with navigating cities. I'm back in Portland now where I grew up, and I can drive around here with a map. It's the only place really that I can do that. It's places where I live pre-GPS and pre-internet sort of mapping. And so, and I've just been thinking a lot about that stuff, and also the sort of, so can you ever go back, right? Because it's also amazing. We can also go anywhere. I can avoid traffic, like in way, and so that's good stuff. But yeah, I feel like part of me wonders, Chris, I know, Rini, do you have kids? Mm-hmm. So Chris, I don't either. And so one of the questions that I was thinking about with you, Chris, is like, so do kids remember things? Like, and how do they remember things? So are we creating it somehow as their generation learning differently than we did, and they're retaining information, even though it's coming from the internet? Whereas we, like, what, are we just kind of screwed because we learned to remember before the internet? So I'm just really curious what you see about in the different, or also maybe it's just getting old, but I don't think so. I think it's the internet.
It's not old.
It's not old because I'm not old.
Yeah, the kid thing is interesting. I mean, I feel like I'm a little off message here. I would like to say that it's totally warping my children, but I actually think that our kids might be better at managing it than we are. I think we're in this weird generational sliver where we're sort of got the worst of both sides. But I see young people, and they're not only like, they have memories, and I feel like they can manage their internet usage. Like, you would think maybe they'd be like on their devices all the time, but they're sort of not. I actually feel like it's us, the oldsters, who are like not as equipped.
Right. Why? And how do we fix that? How do we be like, that's one thing. People maybe you've never said, how do we be more like kids on the internet? I don't know.
Right.
Maybe that's your next book. How to internet like a kid.
But what we do have going for us is that I think our sense of selves developed in a healthier place. And now you hear so much about younger people who are feel like really bereft when they don't get enough likes and hearts or whatever. And like, there's a real number on them, not like it's just a bummer where it might be a bummer for us. It's like, it's serious. Like, their sense of self is entirely intertwined with that.
Yeah, I can't imagine like junior high, like surviving something like junior high or high school with that kind of pressure,
Yeah, and that's before you even get into the actual traumatic things that the internet is used for, which is fish.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think about that often too, this sort of, oh my God, what would have happened if the internet existed when I was young? I can't I cannot imagine the bad things I would have done and put online. And yeah, so it's like there's this flip side. Their brains maybe they've developed differently to manage the information. But yeah, that's an interesting point. The cost to yourself maybe is higher.
Yeah, but it's interesting talking about this stuff. Like, you have to be real careful, or you will sound like,
oh, totally, an old person. Yeah.
Yeah, like, why is there no good music since the
totally.
doo-wop?
Absolutely. That was one of the things I was saying. Also, like, how do you have a unique conversation about this? Because everybody who is in the sort of any generation that existed before the internet. Yeah, it's all that sort of when the phones came along, everything. So right. And it's just we've all said all the things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this is very much not a new idea.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it's like like this book. The idea of like saying anything critical about the internet is not new.
Right.
In fact, before the pandemic, I feel like we were actually making headway as a culture where people were starting to like have some decent resolutions about their internet use or whatever. So it's an old critique, but at the same time, I feel like I don't know.
Right. We keep talking about it for a reason. But also one way to say something unique about the internet is to say it in oldie-timey Shakespearean language, which is what you've done.
Yeah.
So like, okay. But also, is it my imagination that the stanzas are all tweet length?
It's not your imagination. Mm-hmm. That's real. You know what? Maybe that's a good opportunity to do a little reading.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, one nice thing, I'm going to do a little disclaimer here. One nice thing about the internet is that if you need to find one of the top Morgan Freeman impersonators on the planet, it's very easily done. And that's what Rinee and I did when we were making our little book trailer. This is written in this sort of, Shakespearean or sort of biblical.
Oh, maybe it's biblical, yeah.
Language. And it really felt like we needed someone with like biblical gravitas and possibly a God voice to read it. So we did. We found, for like an embarrassingly low amount of money, you can hire someone who sounds exactly like Morgan Freeman. And that's what we did. So you're going to have to imagine a Morgan Freeman impersonating Morgan Freeman, sounding like God when you hear me read this right now. Because I don't know how to play the trailer over this video. All right, so I'm just gonna read like a random little couple pages from the middle. So and I'll jump around a little bit, but you're all smart. You can track this. On the day the screens went dark, our children commanded, "Fix it so we may watch Extreme Dog Fails 3. We are frightened and bored at the same time. 7-fold times I force quitteth, but no change was wrought, nor didst dog fails cleave upon us." Rinee's going to show you like a nicer version of the illustrations later, but that's a rough idea. On the day the screens went dark, I stood in the yard and the sun shone brightly, but I was brought low, for I knew not where the stars of Saved by the Bell were now, nor which remained hot, and the information could not be Googled thereof. Jumping ahead a little bit. On the day the screens went dark, I cried to our children, "Let us bake a pie, though we know not which recipe is rated highest." We toiled and toiled, then beheld what we had wrought. It would receive neither fave nor heart, nor Aunt Kim's supplemental conspiracy links, but we ate of it with vigor. On the day the screens went dark, I took mine old flute down from the closet and gazed upon a cloud that resembled a camel, and played 14-fold rounds of Go Fish with the children, a plague upon them both. But still there was time for reflection. I reflected on the ceiling and imagined walking up there, how clean and bare it was, a thought unvisited for years. So it goes on from there. It starts with the trauma of the internet dying, and then it's told, I should have explained this first, it's told sort of through the story of this dad and his two kids. And they start to sort of reconcile with this thing that has happened and actually sort of pivot into a new life, and then society starts to pivot into a new life, and then all of the world sort of evolves in this interesting way that I won't explain now. But yeah, that's the rough idea. It's biblical and it's also tweet sized at the same time.
And so, Rinee, when you got them in, did you guys have how did it work to make those images come to life from those words? So did you read it and then just kind of have these images, and you just sort of kind of did this? Did you guys talk back and forth, Chris? Yeah, like how did that whole process work to create what you actually see on the page?
Rinee, can I say a thing about you to introduce you?
Sure.
So yeah, I did not know Rinee personally, but her work I was familiar with, and it was this perfect mix of beautiful and crazy, which is what I was looking for, because I wanted it to be like a beautiful thing to look at, but I also wanted it to be funny and demented, and that's what Rinee is. So you can explain how that actually translated into illustrations.
Yeah, that's such a lovely compliment. Thank you. I mean, honestly, when I first read the manuscript, I was like, I have no idea how to bring this to life because it was so unique. But taking a step back and just taking cues from the biblical vibe helped a lot. And then just trying to like add a little bit of whimsy to it. So in the book, they're all wearing these biblical robes, but then they also have tube socks as well.
I love the tube socks.
So just trying to find that balance between kind of like silly and serious.
And so can you tell me about I just like was semi-obsessed with the hanger on the dog's head. Chris, you held up that image, and that was also the page you read. But yeah, like, are there deeper like, was there a sort of whole journey that went behind, like, okay, I'm gonna have the dog sit there? Is that?
No, I think because that particular spread mentions dog fails, and when I read that, I was like, wait, what is a dog fail? And so I think I Googled it, and there was this photo of this poor dog with a hanger.
Wait, are there actually dog fails?
You made this up?
I mean, that yeah, so I was like, oh, dog fails.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, and it's funny, I do think, I feel like we've all, in some ways, I love the biblical language, the biblical talking, because, so much of the Bible and our understanding of it, it's like, it's the reading of it. It's how does it evolve? How does a civilization change as new things get introduced? And, of course, there's a lot of lamenting, like all the bad of the internet and all the hard of the internet. But, I kind of think maybe we're hopefully going toward a place where we're finding the next rendition of it. Like we went through, there was this early day of just like, it's amazing, everything's awesome, and Twitter was just like this happy place where people were fun, and they were like, hi, you should read my book. And it was just, and then it went really dark and hard. And and I guess, are you guys hopeful? Do you feel like you're headed there? Is that part of what this story was about? Was your sort of fantasy about how you hope we're headed into the whatever the third phase of this is, where it's a more peaceful, functional place?
Do you want the real answer or the nice answer?
I want the real answer.
No, I'm not hopeful.
Yeah,
I'm despondent.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, I mean, oh my God. Just Twitter alone, since you mentioned it, just the way that like the smallest disagreement over how something happened or went down or a thing someone said, like it just goes nuclear so instantly. And I worry not only that it's happening there, but that it's like seeping into our actual pores. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. Don't you all feel like sometimes you meet people in real life and they seem like a human internet? Like you're like, you have come to embody the warped, screwed up values of the internet in your actual real life. That scares me.
Yeah, and the difficulty of interacting. Yeah.
I don't know. Rinee, are you more hopeful?
No, I think that like I really worry about all the little echo chambers that have like happened with people. like in conspiracy theories, kind of just finding their like particular pocket and just really spinning out. Like we saw, you know, what happened in January and, you know, what happened with the election and stuff. And I think, I don't know how that gets better immediately. Like a lot of like systematic change has to happen. And I'm not sure who's going to initiate that change, you know?
Yeah. Although I was really grateful when you pointed out that coronavirus isn't real, Rinee. That was super helpful links and everything.
Total hoax. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the things that I think saves the internet is that you can find facts on there, right? But yeah, so it's good that it's super easy to find like the truth when you go online. And
well, you can find the facts that you want, right?
Yes. I've been thinking a lot. One of the things as we were getting ready, I was sort of thinking about this event. I was like, one thing that I think about with the internet all the time is like, how did people journalist before the internet existed? How did people do a lot of the professional things that we do, right? And it's like, we think a lot about all the misinformation that gets online and it's so hard to find the truth and all of those things. And there's a part of my brain that's just like, how did information get disseminated before? And how did we know if it was true? And how did journalists find things? And, I imagine often Chris, I think, this like goes to you for sure. It's like, what would our lives have been like trying to journalist before the internet? You'd have to, go to archives. I think about when I was first trying to find Henry Lax's family, I was like I was on the phone calling archivists, begging for them to go look for death certificates. And then I was like, oh, you won't. Okay. I have to find like a student who will go to the library, maybe find it, but I have to fly to Baltimore to go see if I can go dig around in a basement and find a thing that now it's just like, it's just there.
Well, that was going to be my question for you.
Yeah.
Becca, like what would have happened with Henrietta Lacks? Like,
no.
If you were starting that now, how would that have gone differently?
Yeah, everything, right? I mean, everything that we do as journalists would be different. I think when I first started working on the book, it was in 1999. So the internet wasn't exactly what it is now. I couldn't, for example, just search and find people. I was going through old phone books and calling like every lax in the phone book. And now I would be able to find them on, Instagram, Twitter, and it would be a pretty straight shot. It took me over a year to find her daughter.
Yeah.
And that just is not a thing anymore, unless somebody really, if it takes you even a week or 2 weeks as a journalist to find somebody, that person really doesn't want to be found.
Right.
And they've worked hard to make it that way. So yeah, I think, right, it would have been faster if the internet did exist then. And, I think a lot of the story would have been very different for her family, because in some ways, it's funny, I haven't thought about it this way, but, the story of Henrietta's daughter, Deborah, she was so traumatized by information. And often it was online. Like in the 90s, it was like, I guess it was the early 2000s, she got this very rickety old computer. And we had those free AOL dial-up discs, and I got her online, for the first time. I was like, here is Google. I don't even know if it was Google, that was probably Yahoo. And, she went online and typed Henrietta Lacks, HeLa cells, and like, it was just her entire life changed. She was terrified by most of what she found. There's articles about like, are these cells like an alien species now? Are they even human anymore? Did they clone her mother? Like, and that was before we had what we have today. And yeah, I've not thought about that. That's really interesting. Yeah, but exactly. Yeah, I think, and if the internet hadn't existed, she wouldn't have found all that. For better and for worse, she found a lot of stuff that was also good for her. But yeah, I think there was a lot of trauma that it caused pretty early on for her. And just functionally doing research,
Yeah.
Even just the basics, like where you put all your stuff. I had all these boxes and boxes and boxes of photos. And now they're just in this little like thing on my computer that lives on the internet, and I don't have to fill boxes of things and travel. And so, yeah, it's just like, it's changed, and I'm thankful for that, right? Like it just has changed everything about our worlds, and we're all able to work during COVID and all the obvious things that wouldn't have been able to happen.
Yeah.
But also, we also live in a world where we're all potentially going to be doxxed and have somebody come to our house if they're mad at us. And, this was one of the things I was thinking about as I was reading this. There is the sort of fairy tale fantasy feeling of it also is like, there be monsters, it's like this kind of scary land where there might be just trolls and monsters, and that some of the illustrations I think were what did that for me, is seeing these kind of foresty, fairyland places. Was that in your mind at all as you were doing that? The sort of, there may be scary things in the forest, or was that just my projecting?
I wasn't envisioning that there were like hidden jewels or anything.
Yeah. And also, I have
next therapy appointment, Rebecca.
It's Wednesday, next weekend, Wednesday. So, and speaking of all that, like Chris, I have to say, one of my first thoughts when we started this was, you're just so brave sitting there in front of that green screen
I thought that too.
On April 1st, doing just so you don't know much about the internet and how memes are made, huh? Should we need to talk about that at all?
I am in a rental house because it's my kids' spring break, and we rented this little house up on the beach in Sea Ranch. It's the kind of place with like shell art and little like sayings about how, if you walk on the beach, you can, I don't know, the tide, and some inspirational saying or whatever. So the walls are all green screen. Sorry, I'd like to offer.
I will be so disappointed in the internet if we do not get some great images of you with all kinds of weird shit going on behind you.
So that is a perfect example of what's wonderful.
Wonderful.
The internet, of course. And then, like on a serious note, this past year, I feel, like that deserves its own special conversation, because obviously we all would have been screwed in a dozen different ways, small and large, without the internet. And I think that's made for an interesting conversation that Rinee and I have been sort of caught up in. Like, there was this review from Publishers Weekly. It was perfectly nice, happy, good review, but it did sort of ding us for like coming out now on the heel, well, hopefully, knock wood, the heels of the pandemic. And like, it was almost like it was unseemly to speak ill of the internet after the way the internet saved us. And I thought a lot about that. And I feel like that is an interesting conversation that people should be having with themselves or with other people. I feel like our sanity, and in some cases our actual survival, hinged on this thing that is really bad for us in a lot of ways that we all know about. And it's like, are you allowed to criticize the thing that you are relying on for your well-being?
Well, and are you allowed to criticize the thing that you're relying on for your well-being and that not everybody has access to?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a huge and important issue. And like, I think that we're complicated beings. Like, I can be very much like interested in fixing the digital divide. And I can be very invested in making sure that kids in low-income communities get better access to the internet, and at the same time talk about how the internet is really bad in a lot of ways. I think you can have both those conversations at the same time. Right.
And hopefully maybe learn from them. I mean, that's the part of me that's like maybe slightly, the sort of Pollyanna, like maybe we'll hit this other, we'll be able to learn lessons and say, okay, we want to make sure everybody gets the internet, but don't do this thing we've been doing. Let's do a different version of it.
Right. What would you change, Rebecca, if you were going to do a different version?
God, I have no idea. I mean, there's so many things I would change. I mean, the sort of equity factor is definitely one of them, making sure that everybody can get it, and how you manage the hate and the attacks on, essentially like everyone who's not a white dude. Sorry, Chris. I mean, being a woman online and, doing anything in public is just, it's terrifying sometimes, it's really scary. And I spend a lot of my life trying to make sure that I can be safe from that, and I'm a privileged white woman, right? So then each layer, it gets worse and worse and worse. So that sort of, how do you figure out how to do that in a way that's equitable and safe, I think is obviously like the most important thing. And then it does feel like the internet was designed to keep us from doing anything else. to sort of suck us in and hit all of our dopamine, serotonin receptors and all the things that just keep us like doing it. And I think that's so damaging. And I was actually thinking about that earlier. It's like, I want to hear from both of you the lengths that you have gone to get away from the internet. Like, what things have you done? I kind of was making a mental list, and Chris, in some ways you're doing that a little bit now, right? You're going to a place and like we do that. And just thinking about the way that's evolved over the years, in the beginning, I used to, when I had to write, I would go to this little house a friend of mine had in the middle of nowhere in West Virginia. There was no internet there. They just didn't have service there. It was awesome. I had a little flip phone and I could like eke out text messages where it was like ABC, AB, and it would take me 20 minutes to do a one sentence text, and I would spend an amazing amount of time doing that. But then eventually you're just with yourself and you write. And then over the years, like, oh, well, then Wi-Fi started. So then it was just kind of around. And I used to make my ex take the router with him to work. So it wasn't in my apartment, so that I could get my work done while he was at work and not get sucked into the internet. And then just Wi-Fi was everywhere. And then phones became hotspots. And I was like, well, okay, you can't take my phone. So I get like, okay, I've taped my phone to the wall, so I can't, and given it to friends and try to block it with apps. And, it's just insane when you really start thinking about the thing, or maybe it's just me, I don't know, maybe you guys haven't done any of this, but I imagine you have, but that's just not okay. Like there's that somehow I would change that, but I don't know is that changing the internet or is that changing humans? I don't even know. But yeah, so I want to hear what lengths have you gone to?
Rinee, have you gone to lengths?
Nothing like taping my phone to a wall. That seems extreme. I think the most I've done is just deleting social media apps from my phone. And like, to me, and it sounds crazy and I probably would hate it, but if the internet was like Netflix and Google Maps and like right. That kind of stuff, and then it didn't have any social media, I think maybe it would be a better place.
Mm-hmm. Early on, I don't know, maybe it was like 2007 or something. Yeah, 2007. I found, I don't know anything about coding, but I found a guy and I hired him to write a program. Do you call them programs? On my laptop that would like keep me off the internet for an hour. And he was like, this is weird. I don't know. I don't get this, but whatever, I'll do it for $75 or whatever. And then a couple of years later, Freedom came out. Yeah. And then there's a whole slew of these programs. And I felt like, I don't know, maybe there's going to be a little movement. And there has been, of course, a small movement. I did a story years ago about the digital detox community. And I went to the summer camp for grownups and was reporting on that. And it was eye-opening. These are people who didn't just go offline for the weekend, which you can sort of white knuckle it and force yourself to go offline, but they had done some thinking about it, which I found really eye-opening. I remember one thing a connection they made that I had never made before is that internet equals work in so many ways, and that internet culture has infected work culture and vice versa, so that like our work lives and our personal lives have become one in a lot of ways. You partly just because you are always able to do your work. It can be 9 p.m. and you're on call always because you're available. Obviously, it depends on what kind of job you have, but that sort of structural fact, I think, trickled out into a lot of other sort of squishier facts about the way we relate to the internet. And so one of the rules at the summer camp was not only no internet, obviously, but no work talk, because work and internet had fused so much that like if you're talking about one, you were sort of talking about the other. And I thought that was really astute.
And so how would you change the internet if you could?
I don't know. God. Without the internet, there's no, name your favorite TV show. I get to listen to music whenever I'm going for a walk, and I don't need to list all the great things about the internet. I don't know what I want. I mean, my 12-year-old, oh no, it was actually my 8-year-old son said, well, it seems like what you want is for the internet never to have been invented in the first place. So we can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. So
Is
I
it
don't know.
true? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Because that would be equalizing, and we won't know about those Sopranos memes or whatever we're missing. So like, yeah, I don't know. I think that would be good. I don't know. I feel like one of these days someone's going to do a big tally of like all the good things the internet did and all the bad things, and then we'll know for sure which way it should have gone. But yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm probably not allowed to say this because I'm sure I signed something, but I took an editing job at a large internet company down on the peninsula several years ago. I had always sort of been curious about those places, and it was an opportunity to get a lot of snacks. And so for a few months, I would go down there and work at this very, very large place that you've heard of. And anytime, and it was when this place was getting controversial, and a lot of sort of bad stuff was coming to light about it. And anytime that was part of this sort of national conversation that was happening, everyone who worked there, or at least a lot of people who worked there, they would talk about some good thing, some very small but emotional good thing that this company did for people. Like it connected this family in rural Kansas that had otherwise been isolated. Don't people know that we're doing this wonderful thing for this family in rural Kansas? And it was like, true, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there are the good things and the bad things happen in such on different planes.
On different planes, and yeah, there will be no tally. It'll be impossible to ever figure that out. It's funny. Somebody, a comment just popped up in the chat that just says, Rebecca, just think with the internet, you may not have had the opportunity to visit Clover, Virginia, which is where Henrietta grew up. And it's interesting because what's funny is like that I would have been, I mean, I would have, I guess I did do that without the internet, interestingly. So, you know, I found her family, and, you know, the only instructions I had for how to find this place were on a Post-it note. It was like, go find Clover, go to the center of town and ask where Laxtown is. And I did. And I did do, I guess that's right. I did, there was a, oh, that's funny. I forgot about this. There were maps that, you know, I just used regular maps to find Clover. And I guess I did maybe I did a MapQuest map to get to the general area in Virginia, but basically that area was not there. It did not exist on the internet. There was no record of this town at all. None of the people there had the internet. They had just recently gotten indoor electricity in a lot of cases. So interestingly, I would have been able to get to Clover and find all of those people and talk to all those people. Everything that happened in Clover would have been able to happen without the internet. What wouldn't have been able to happen without the internet, I think, is everybody else wouldn't have been able to hear about that. And I think that probably the thing that the internet did in the case of the Henrietta Lacks story, you know, Rinee, you were saying that one of the things that you would sort of get rid of is social media. And I totally get that, right? It's so hard. And my book came out in 2010, and Twitter was just a baby at that point. And it was this early kind of kumbaya moment online, and everybody was just like, oh my God, this is incredible. We're going to be able to tell people about all the things in the world, and we're going to be able to share information. And, you know, and part of what happened was that there was this incredible, it was like uprising of people. So I had reached out to bloggers, and, you know, that's what was happening was blogging, and given people advanced copies of the book and just been like, this book's coming out, and like, I would love it if you could help me get the word out. And they became like evangelists about this story, and all these science people went online and just started posting about it on their Twitter pages. You must read this, you must read this. And then, like, you know, Black Twitter was in its infancy then. It didn't exist in the way it does now, but it started, and people were talking, and really, like, I think in a lot of ways, we all, like, there was this moment where a lot of people thought that was the beginning of Twitter changing books. It was like my book became this thing that just became a social media phenomenon. And that was, you know, and then it was also traditional media. I was on the radio and I was on television, but like, I often wonder, like, without that core group of just like everyday humans who cared so much and wanted people to know this thing they thought was important. I don't know that the book would have gotten out the way it did, which is what's amazing about social media. It's also what can become very destructive about social media, right? It's like this, and that was this, it's super complicated. And it, I remember fighting with my publishing house because at that point there was this, they didn't think about blogs and et cetera as one of their publicity tools. So they're like, what do you mean you want to print out 100 copies of your book at Kinko's and send them to these internet people? Like, that's insane. That's going to just destroy your book. They're just going to like post it online. And, and so I went rogue and I just did this by myself. And the same thing with my book tour. I organized my book tour by going on Google Maps. And this was when it was editable. You could make an editable map and share it with, so I put it on Facebook and Twitter and various places. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be in this quadrant of the United States this month. Basically, like, if you're in a city in one of these quadrants and you want to book an event, stick yourself on that map. And if you build it, I will come and I will talk about my book. And the same thing happened through Google Maps that happened with Twitter, which was that people just made that tour happen in so many ways. And I never went home again. I was like, literally like 10 years I was traveling because of this. But like, that's just incredible. Like, so much of the power of the internet, is that, right? Is like, we want people to know this thing that nobody knows that we think is important, about a Black family. It's just like, could that have happened in 1999? Yeah, I don't know.
That's so quaint what you're describing.
Isn't it? It sounds so friendly. It was. I went to people's houses. Like, would you just post some stuff on the internet and Twitter and go to somebody's house now? That sounds a little scary. But no, right? No, it does. It's like this old world, oldie-timey thing where it doesn't sound very real, but that's what it was. And for so long, and I think that's one of the things that makes it hard for me, at least, to like, I see everything it is now and I'm like, I hate it, I love it, I hate it, I love it. It's just, and I don't know how you, just like anything else, how do you go back to the good old days, right? Like, you just can't. So what does that mean?
I don't know. Good God. Well, first of all, Rinee, obviously we should have hired Rebecca to be our book.
Yeah, seriously.
That's my big takeaway. No, I don't think either of us, Rinee, I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think we're trying to like actually push for any policy changes necessarily. But I don't know. I guess I have this weird abstract faith that just talking about this stuff has some value. I don't know. I did this little project over the last few weeks. Sorry, Rinee, you're going to hear about this again. That I think is going to be coming out in an article I wrote in the New York Times in a few days. But I just started my own personal offline project, was going offline every night for about a month, for a little while. And I had reached out to a handful of people. Becca, I didn't bother you because I'd already bothered you to do this event tonight. But I reached out to a bunch of people and asked them to send me like one little fantasy of what they would do if the internet died. And I was like, just keep it to 60 seconds real quick. And people went crazy. They were way over 60 seconds because like, just no one actually thought it's going to happen or thinks it's going to happen, but just being able to like get in touch with that part of yourself. I just feel like there's this other version of us out there that's just sort of, there's like a ghost world where we live offline and we get to do all the things that we miss doing. And I don't know, just being in touch with those voices in us, I think it's gotta be valuable.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not just saying this plug the book, but that's obviously what this is, right? I read this thing and it did that for me. I sat there in my backyard and I actually did do that transporting thing. And I did think about it. And it's funny, speaking of therapy, you asked about what my next therapy appointment is. One of the things that is one of the sort of guiding principles of so much of therapy is this phrase, make the unconscious conscious. Like, you can't change something until you're conscious of what it is. So there's all this old buried stuff. And so to me, like, when you were just saying that, I'm like, that's what you're talking about. It's not like policy or anything. It's just like making this unconscious or maybe buried thing that we don't really want to think about, like making it conscious, maybe for an hour a day or whatever. And then that just forces you to sort of you just change, things happen when you make the unconscious conscious, because you can no longer ignore them. And like, and that was sort of the feeling of sort of reading this, I think, for me.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. That's good. I forgot about that.
You can use that. It's my favorite. I love that phrase. Yeah. No, it's and are we at the point now where I'm supposed to say, don't you have some challenges for the viewers?
Oh, funny you mentioned that, Rebecca. Rinee, do you want to explain this? I feel like I've been blathering a lot.
Oh wait, okay, hold on before you do. Somebody there's also a new thing, and I'm just going to put a plug it. I don't think it has to be much conversations. It says people are also saying, but look at dating apps and how lovely it is to connect with people if you have some social anxiety. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
100% booster of the dating apps. Anyways, go ahead.
I boost them from within my marriage. I like to look at single people's dating apps and just sort of.
You wrote my dating profile. Remember?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Right.
That's right. Like right when I went through.
Did it work?
I went through makeup. It was very funny. I'm trying to remember what the phrase was. I was like, I'm not going to go on a dating app. Oh my God. And you wrote, and you like forced me to do it. And you created a profile for me. And you wrote, what was the line? It was something like temporarily, like online for a short time only, or something like that. I'm sure I wrote it down. I don't remember what it was. Do you remember this?
No, I mean, I remember doing it. I don't remember it.
Okay. I was going to say, if you didn't, that's internet brain for you. See, you don't even remember creating my dating profile.
I do remember it. Okay, Rinee, do you want to explain these challenges?
Sure. So Chris and I have some offline challenges, just ways or like small things you can do to kind of get that unconscious brain to step away from the internet. And if you do one of these challenges and email us, we will celebrate you online is the big term that I think we're using. But you can contact us at timetogetoff.com. So I'll start with 3 challenges, and they start off easy and then they get a little bit harder. So the first one is find a stick and walk around with it for 5 minutes. It's pretty doable.
Yeah.
Second one.
That's super offline.
So offline. It's really connecting with nature. The second one is draw a rug warehouse from memory. And then the
classic rug warehouse challenge.
Classic rug warehouse challenge. And then the last one is get engaged and don't tell anyone unless it comes up in casual conversation. A little bit harder.
All right, 3 more challenges. I want to really emphasize what people are going to get if they do this, Rinee. They are going to, they're going to reach out to us via our website, timetogetoff.com. And
I started 12.
We got to sell that URL when we're done with it, Rinee.
You can sell that for a lot, I'm sure.
Timetogetoff.com. If you complete these challenges, honor code, you just tell us you did it, we'll believe you. Then we will celebrate you so hard on the internet. I know that's ironic, but that's life. You will just, and God only knows how your life will change after you're celebrated on timetogetoff.com. Okay, so next challenge. When you get your vaccine shot, don't post that picture. Experience those feelings privately. That's a hard one.
Sorry.
I can do it, but I'm putting it out there.
Can I just say, do that unless you're part of a community that's terrified to get it and you want to put it out there so that you can help them feel okay with it.
Oh, God damn it.
Sorry.
I'm so virtuous about this.
Sorry. I don't know. I just.
Fine.
But not if it's just like, wee. I'm with you on that.
Okay. Next one. Next time you go, go to the bathroom without taking your phone. Pretty straightforward. I know that's hard. That's our special bathroom badge. You get a special bathroom badge if you go to the bathroom without your phone. Rebecca, do you want to problematize that too?
No, I'm good about that. Yeah, I'm good with that. And actually, I was going to say that's I think maybe my favorite section of the book has to do with being in the bathroom without the phone. That was my favorite. Yeah.
It's real really.
I mean, I could give you some scientific reasons why it's good to not go to the bathroom with your phone, but I'm not going to problematize it. Well, you haven't heard about the, like, have you heard about the sort of what happens to you anatomically when you sit on the toilet for a very long time on your phone? There's a large increase in like cases of hemorrhoids and various other things because we are not designed to sit on that bowl for a long time like that. We just, you get in, you do your thing, you leave, you're good. You get in there, you sit there for a half hour, 45 minutes. You start having some gravity problems, it changes some things. No, there's like actual medical reasons to not sit on the phone, sit on the phone, or also on the phone, not sit on the toilet on your phone.
Yeah.
Also, sitting on your phone is probably better than sitting on the toilet while using your phone.
Rinee, we got to get sponsored by the Hemorrhoid Society of America.
Yeah. I think Preparation H, there's a lot of good stuff you could work with.
Okay, last one. I know this is a high challenge level. I'm not like saying it's definitely going to work, but I want you next time that you need to send a text to someone, send it with your mind. Just try it. We don't know. Probably won't work, but we don't know for sure. So just try it. It's good. It's just good. It's just good to like experiment in the offline sphere. All right, so if you successfully attempt any of these, you write to us at timetogetoff.com, and we will be very proud of you and happy for you, and we will celebrate you publicly on the internet. All
Maybe
right,
I'll pause for it. Yeah.
And then I think we're done now. I think we're supposed to
done.
stop. I got a 5-minute warning almost 5 minutes ago.
Well then, if that's the end of it, thank you everybody for coming out. It's really nice to meet you, Chris and Rinee, and Rebecca as well. Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us. Rebecca, thank you for talking with us.
it was so fun. I'm glad I get to see you on the internet because I don't get to see you in real life right now.
Yeah, go internet. Oh yeah, there's the book. You can buy it at bookpassage.com on the internet.
Absolutely. So thank you everybody one last time. The book is off the day the internet died. Everybody in the chat right now, everybody say thank you to Chris and Rinee for coming out, and thank you for Rebecca for being a wonderful, wonderful moderator. For being a wonderful, wonderful moderator. It's very, very, very lovely that you two made it out. If you want to purchase the book, you can get it at bookpassage.com. Even if you are on the other side of the country, we can ship it to your house. If you go to our website, we'll ship it right on to you. It's easy enough to do it. Also, check out Rebecca's book if you haven't done so. If you haven't done so yet, it'll be really, really nice. Thank you, everybody, one last time for coming out. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed what's going on. Be sure to subscribe to us by clicking that red button below. It really, really honestly does help us out. See you in the next one. Thank you very much for coming out. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Oh, we were supposed to turn our thing on.